Fact: 225 million children are sexually abused each year. The majority of victims are under 8 years of age. About 50% of offenders are the parents.
What we talking about, fiction, or we talking about fact? We talking about fiction, hold up, pardon my back.
Fact: 1 out of every 3 girls will be sexually assaulted by the age of 18. 1 out of 7 children are abused. How many children do you know that have been sexually abused? And how many children do you know that have been sexually abused by their parent? You can't afford to ignore it.
I'm talking about pain, talking about despair, I'm talking about shame, talking about...
I am not sure where to begin or how to begin. Even though I've had these feelings and thoughts for years, it literally took me the last few days to complete my presentation. There are a few reasons why. For a fear of what others may think, to am I really ready to speak on a personal subject in front of an audience? As I stand here today, the answer is yes. Yes, because I've had this passion to do a documentary on this subject for years. I say years because as I was preparing my presentation, I went to my thumb drive and placed the cursor on a file that said documentary ideas. The file is dated September 26, 2007, time 6:31 p.m.
And one of those ideas included my own personal story. You probably are wondering what the personal story is. And of course, the documentary is based on child molestation. Some of you may wonder why I want to do a personal story to let everyone know pretty much my business, which is real. And the answer is simply that I'm still in the process of going through my journey of healing. And secondly, I hope that others will be able to use my story as inspiration to help themselves and get the help that they may need to move forward in life. My story begins when I was a young child, and I don't remember the exact age, which is a lot. That goes on a lot with children who have adults who have been molested when they were kids. I do remember vividly the acts of the molestation and the person who molested. My family and I lived in an apartment complex, and my mother worked at a bank, and my father was in and out of jobs. While my mother worked, I would be home with my father. And my father, who was supposed to be the provider and protector, molested me. As I go further into the story, your spirits may become weak, and for a short period of time. But just think of how many years that I had to deal with it. And I don't want anyone to feel sorry, because that's not why I'm here. My memories came to me as a young adult. I would constantly have these vivid flashbacks, and most of the flashbacks happened when I was alone, pretty much in my bedroom. I would cry every time I visualized what happened to me. I often would write in my notebook how I felt. And one of my entries goes as follows, quote, August 31st, 2004. I'm at the point where I'm literally hurting inside. everything that and everything that I'm going through is taking its toll on me. One of the main things that's bothering me is when I was molested as a child by my father. This seems to be rearing its ugly head every so often, but it seems to be killing me softly more lately. One reason was because in the past few weeks, a co-worker told me that her child, who she has cared for, her child was about 8 when she was molested by an 11-year-old cousin, someone who she has cared for in her own home. The culprit committed the crime each and every time he came to visit. I know this child's pain. I've been there before. Actually, I'm still here. Why? Because it's all bottled up inside me and screaming to come out. It hurts, and I believe maybe it's an assortment of things, but this is the reason that I'm being held back from knowing who I truly am. Every time it pops in my head, all I can think about is when my father said to me, "Go ahead and wipe your cootie cat out," end quote. Some of you may not know what that means, and I will break it down to you in proper terms. Excuse me. He basically said to go and wipe your vagina because he had ejaculated. And I remember when he would come into my room every so often and force himself upon me. And as I struggled to get him from underneath me, or from underneath him, it was to no avail. The more I struggled, the more he would put his pressure on me, which obviously was too strong for me to even try to move him. Excuse me. And he would do this until he would insert his penis inside me. Excuse me, may I have a tissue? Thank you. Thanks. These accidents happened to me more than once, and I was never able to tell anyone, or I never did tell anyone. It wasn't until about I was 20 years old that I was in a relationship that the ugly secret was revealed to others. I was in a relationship with an older guy, and I thought that I could confide in him. I told him that I was molested by my dad, and I never told anyone. And I thought that he would have sympathy for me at that time. And then, at that time, he did. It was later that we got into an argument that he took it upon himself to tell my mother. And it wasn't the fact that I didn't want my mother to know. It was just how she found out that upset me the most. It's something that I should have been able to tell my mother when I was ready to. I was embarrassed and I was ashamed, and at that point, I just felt like I couldn't trust anyone anymore. When she found out, I was actually scared, and I was actually scared to face her. I was ashamed that it had happened to me, and I didn't want her asking me anything about it. When she did, I would just clam up and get angry with her. And it lasted, my anger towards my mother did last for a very long time, when actually it wasn't her fault. And sometimes I did feel it was her fault. How and why didn't she know what had happened to me? Where was she when I felt I needed her the most? And why couldn't she see my pain back then and now? For many years I struggled with this pain, and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was ashamed and embarrassed. I was hurting. I was angry. I was sad. I was depressed. I used to always say to myself and stay to myself and be in my room. I withdrew from friends for a very long time. These actions were such a part of my life that I believe my family just thought it was the norm for me. like this is just who she is. But in actuality, and when truth be told, the normal me was still waiting to be found. In '05, I decided to seek help. I knew that I couldn't face this demon alone anymore, and I didn't want to continue to live in sorrow and pain. Even though I decided I needed help, it was still, even though I decided I needed help, I was still in, how do I put this, in for another battle. Should I go see a psychiatrist and be labeled as crazy? What a lot of people, especially in urban communities, will say if you go seek help from a psychiatrist? Or am I crazy if I don't go get the help that I need and I know that I need it? So I decided that I would be crazy and go get the help that I deserved and I needed. So I made an appointment with a psychiatrist. As I thought I had reached a turning point in my life by deciding to go see a psychiatrist, everything didn't go as planned. Beginning the therapy sessions gave me an opportunity to speak about what was bothering me. At this point, I never had an opportunity to do this. This was an opportunity to help me through my problems. And I don't think I was prepared for how just talking about this ordeal would make me feel. I thought I would just open up to the psychiatrist and all would be well. That wasn't the case. The therapy sessions were the most difficult things that I've ever had to do, or one of the most difficult things. I'm sure I'll have many more. I never had anyone to sit and listen to what was eating at my soul. And the fact that this woman was sitting there and just asking me questions and listening was something that I wasn't used to. I cried as if I were a baby, and I didn't realize that helping myself to get through this pain will cause me more pain. I couldn't handle it. I went to a few sessions and then I stopped. And I guess I wasn't really ready after all. Once I stopped, I began to get those angry feelings and depressed feelings again. I tried another method. My brother, who has always been a young man and that enjoys going to church, came to me one day and knocked on my room door. And I said, "Come in." He gave me a copy of the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation,
I say this
but deliver us
because
from evil.
I begin to seek God's
Thine is the
guidance.
kingdom, power, and the glory forever. Amen.
During my painful years, I never really had a strong sense of faith. For a long time, I thought God wasn't on my side because of what happened to me. But soon after my brother came to me, I began going to church with him on Sunday mornings. And I wanted to renew my faith with God, and I needed to try something different. And I felt seeking spirituality, can't even say the word right now, spirituality, and faith would help me. I started to begin my own personal relationship with God. I wanted to believe, and I started to believe. For some reason, I knew that restoring my faith in God would help me get through anything. Since I started to go to church, I mustered up the courage to go back to see a psychiatrist. Even though I had renewed my faith and started believing in myself, going to the sessions always brought me to tears. I guess those feelings still needed to get out, and at this time, I continued on with the sessions. In these sessions, the psychiatrist helped me to understand that the molestation was not my fault. She explained to me that many victims of child molestation feel this way. She helped me to understand that it was not my mother's fault either. I sessions also helped me realize that mostly all victims are embarrassed about what happened to them. The psychiatrist helped me to get the courage to talk with my mother and to tell her how I really felt. I'm glad I was able to do this. My mother had no idea the feelings that I had. And for that, we do have a better relationship today. Dealing with child molestation is no easy task. And I have given you a brief insight of how my life was affected by this. As I prepare to close, I don't want anyone leaving here feeling sorry for me. My purpose for this presentation and for my documentary is to give hope where there isn't any hope to be had. My goal is to inspire someone who may be struggling with this ordeal, get the courage and confidence to move past this point in their life. I know that we as people can never forget what happened to us, or nor may we forget. The one thing that you must do to come to peace with yourself and understand the things that have happened to you, you can change that because it's in your control. You can change your feelings. We can change how we deal with the happenings and not let them suppress us anymore. Child molestation can affect everyone in different ways. I know firsthand how child molestation can tear apart your mind, body, and soul. I know that for me, through faith therapy, I was able to pull myself out of a dark place in my life to stand here before you today and tell my story in order to continue my healing journey. I pray and hope that this inspires someone to help themselves get the help needed to overcome their fear of child molestation. As I said before, it will not be an easy feat. But once you decide to go forward, you'll be rewarded with so much self-vindication and growth that you will be on your way to becoming the person who you are destined to be. One of my goals is to hopefully send out the video, if I can, to organizations that deal with child abuse, that hopefully will inspire other kids to maybe move forward with getting help from such an ordeal, that it can help them move on and, be who they should be. And one of my goals in life is to actually open an organization for children who have suffered from child molestation. I do have a few statistics that I would like to share. The epidemic of child molestation is spreading across the country as well as the rest of the world. Yet few people are aware that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 7 boys will be molested before the age of 18. Molestation is never a one-time incident for the victim. Children do not get over child molestation as they do a virus. We are a country populated by millions of adults, victims who continue to bear the emotional scars of childhood sexual abuse, and the casualties of this generation of children increase daily. We all sometimes live in a false sense of security until someone we love is affected by this. Only then do many of us wake up and look around at what is possible. That is not to say we must live in a fear mode, but we must know what to look for. And the telltale signs we should also look for. We need to be aware of the following. Molestation occurs in all incoming racial groups from infancy through adulthood. You may never know that your child is a victim. Children are not likely to lie about sexual abuse. Children do not outgrow the traumatic effects of the molestation. They have to be processed. Children become adults, and unless the molestation is dealt with, it will haunt them in all future relationships. They cannot help it. Like rape, child molestation is one of the most underreported crimes. Only 1 to 10% are ever reported or disclosed. 29% of child abuse offenders are relatives. 60% are acquaintances, and only 11% are strangers. 89% of child sexual assault cases involve persons known to the child, such as a caretaker or family acquaintance. How does child molestation show up? It shows up in a lack of personal power and self-esteem. It shows up in how you feel about life or your general feelings. Many shut down their ability to feel. It shows up in your sexuality. It shows up in your femininity and masculinity. It shows up in how you see yourself or place yourself in society. It shows up in your body, often as a disease. The range of diseases can be certainly, but not limited to, depression, cancer, sexual problems, feminine problems, and etc. It shows up in your intimacy as avoidance, fear, and pain. It shows up with your children and parenting. It shows up in your immediate family and relationships. It affects everyone over time. It shows up in your trust of authority and your trust of males and females. And it shows up in an inability to set up boundaries. And that is my story. So that's it. That's my conclusion. So, yes.
I want to thank you, commend you for your courage.
Thank you. Yes.
You have more courage than you think you have. This is a major step. And if you, I don't think you really got to see around the room, but you touched people in here. You know, I mean, I'm a grown man, and I'm about to, you know, I did everything I could to just hold it together. But thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for listening.
I have a question. With the numbers that you gave, the statistics, 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 7 boys, do you think it's because now we have the legal and medical research to check for molestation, or people are now just talking about it? Because it's been going on since the beginning of time, but I think even now when kids are told, if so-and-so touches you in a certain place, you have to say something.
It could be, but I really still think that it's not a subject that is still brought up. I don't really hear a lot about it, and I forget who I was telling this before to that. I think certain situations such as child molestation in homes are also part of society ills, because children will go and get into games or do other stuff because they don't have the attention or they have gone through such an ordeal. So if they're having this problem at home, they just probably feel like, well, I can just do anything. And that's where a lot of our problems do come from. I really think that mental health is a big issue in communities that is not basically touched in urban communities, especially because everyone thinks it's just, you know, a hard knock life, but there's other circumstances that make it that. So I think that's one of the big problems that's not addressed at all.
That could be something you could pursue with the Rochester School District. I remember the Greece School District 25 years ago, it was mandatory that we went to a professional development. At that time, they said 1 out of every 4 children was sexually molested. That was 25 years ago. But perhaps with this documentary, you could be taking it into, if it's not mandatory in Rochester, because of other problems you're saying might take precedence, that could be a way for you to pursue helping others as well.
And that's what I think, because I think that it should be addressed. I think it's definitely pushed under the rug, and like I said, I don't really hear about it. You know, you hear about the other problems, you hear about the gangs, you hear about the drugs, you hear about the guns.
It might be mandatory in the school district, but if it isn't, help. Maybe I'll work with you on that as an educator. It certainly should become a part of the professional development.
Keisha, have you, as part of your own therapy, have you ever been in a group with other adults who have been molested?
I have not. I tried volunteering at Compare, and the story with that was it was a 16-year-old girl. Pretty similar story. Her father had molested her as well, and I would go over to her apartment with her mom and stepmother, and she never would show up. She never would, try to take the steps to, I guess, help herself, because you have to come to a point in your own life where you want to help. I can sit and talk, and I can sit and do things with you as a mentor, but I think it takes a lot for people to come to that point and say, I need that assistance, and I don't think she was ready. So I kind of pulled back as well. I am looking to get into more volunteering with young children, and I want to do it younger than a teenager, because I think at a young age you can be able to make more of a difference, because sometimes teenagers have their mind made up, and no matter, especially an outside person, no matter what they tell them, they're still going to try to go beyond or what they can do. I'm not against helping teenagers, but if I had a choice, I would like to start younger.
Well, Keisha, I commend you for, not only sharing your story, but having a very difficult conversation and bringing this conversation to the forefront. Because if we don't talk about it, no one's going to change anything. Even if you affect one young person, you will have done a monumental task.
And that's what I want. If I can just, one person, that would be like one of the greatest joys for me, if I can help one person out. I don't know, a lot of young kids probably don't know, there's a lot of famous people too that have been in this situation. And I know of a couple, I don't know a lot, but I know Oprah, which is one. Sheila E. was a drummer for Prince. She has her own foundation as well called Alleviate Hope, where she helps out children who have been abused. The actress Monique, she was abused, sexually abused. Tyler Perry. So the list kind of goes on and on. Yes, okay. So it's a lot of people that it's affected by, and I think some of those people really do not use their popularity to really go after or get involved with the situation when they have, the means and funds and opportunities to do so. I'm not saying that they don't feel like there is a need, but you see them do other things, and there's no knock against them because they've come past that point in their life where they're happy, but sometimes you got to reach back and just give a little hope to others. So
that's when it takes somebody like you.
which is over on Stadley Rough Road here in Danbury. It's called Healing Heart Center for Grieving Children and Families, and that is a place that we have a lot of volunteers that do service there because they can work with kids. Right. And we have support groups that go on at that center many evenings of the week. And so volunteers can go in the evening and provide support to the kids and their families.
Yeah, Cynthia, you know, I don't know anything about the bereavement center. I didn't even know it existed.
I know, I can't believe that.
Yeah, can you believe it? Even I didn't know that. But, yeah, what is a bereavement? So bereavement center is a place. That is a place.
It is a place. It is a place. So our Healing Heart Center used to be down on the farm. So if you remember down on the farm here in Danbury, that's the location over on Stadley Rough Road. It used to be an old farm. And about 10 years ago, the facility itself was renovated and turned into a center, and it's run by Regional Hospice. Right. It's called Healing Hearts, and it's one of the largest bereavement centers in the state of Connecticut, and people don't know that. And so just alone last year, we had 900 children, teenagers, and adults go through that center. I mean, it's really phenomenal, right? It's phenomenal. But what's important to know is that the people that go through that center they don't have to have had experience with our hospice. They may be people that mom and dad went to work one day and dad, you know, was in an accident and now has died, and now the kids need support. It's not a center purposefully for people with illness. It's for anyone who's had a loss.
Right now, again, you're teaching me something I don't know. Are they sent to you by referral from a physician, or can they call you up and say?
Anyone could call us up. It's free. It's a completely free program. It's completely funded by donations, which is amazing. Right. Anyone can come to the center. They just have to give us a call and come in. We get a lot of referrals from schools. Often when there's been some kind of a community tragedy or a teacher has passed away or a child has died in the school system, they often call Regional Hospice for support and some bereavement counseling. And so we do a fair amount of bereavement counseling to the community. And so anyone could call us, anyone can make a referral. We don't take insurance for that program. It's completely free. Wow. So there's no need to have a mental health diagnosis, nothing like that.
And then I imagine, Cynthia, that if someone comes in and you think it's something that maybe needs medication or something else, you probably say, who's your doctor or something like that.
Exactly. We refer them out. What's nice about that program is that an entire family can come. So on a Tuesday and Thursday night, particularly when we have bereavement groups, it wouldn't be unusual to have mom come and go into the adult group, and then her 8-year-old child, her 4-year-old child, and her 10-year-old child go into their own groups. And so the whole concept is that mom and kids can be in the counseling programs simultaneously and then come back together for a closing sort of ceremony. So mom doesn't have to drop off kids, which is often sort of scary for a mom who's been newly widowed or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that idea of getting the family is the basic unit of society. And I don't want to get too heavy on this, but when you look at these movies and you look at some of these primitive cultures, third world poor countries, when it comes to those ultimate moments of life on earth, they seem to do a pretty good job.
Right.
The family gets together, and whether they're chanting or mourning together, they, as opposed to, as it was years ago, dying all alone in a hospital.
Right. But I think also what's nice about the Healing Hearts program is that it's for anyone who's had a loss. So it could be from an accident, it could be from a divorce. We do divorce groups at Healing Hearts, but it also could be a loss because of illness. Yeah. So it's really losses just in general. And as I said, they don't have to be affiliated with our regional hospice program in any way. They